Hello! Today I want to show you guys a tutorial for a pretty easy shoulder size bag that's kind of designed to carry your lighter items, but you can also carry, like for me, I'm going to be using this for my laptop and pretty much just that. I don't actually have any more of this purple yarn, so I can't recreate this design exactly, but I'm going to be creating a little swatch so you can use whatever yarn, whatever hooks is appropriate for that yarn. To make it whatever size you really want this to be. Start by creating an odd number of chains. For my bag, I had about 57 stitches, which gave me a width of about 21 centimeters, but I'm going to chain 15 here for the sample. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, when you create the chains, you can see that there are these V's in the front, but if you turn it around, there are these bumps in the back. So, just grabbing my darning needle. These are the V's that you might normally go into, like over here, here, and here. But for this, to keep it neat, we're going to insert our hook into these back bumps. So over here and here and here. And we're just going to keep doing that along the row. So going into the back loop, we're going to draw up a loop in the next 5 chains. So this is our first back bump. We're going to go directly into there. Draw up a loop and then into the next back bump. Draw up another loop. And then you're going to keep going until you have 6 loops on your hook, which will be the next 5 chains. So once you have 6 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull the row 6. And then we're going to chain 1. By chaining 1, we're creating this eye, so to speak. So this little gap over here. And we're going to be using this. We're going to be using this to draw up a loop. We're going to insert our hook over here. And then we're also going to be using the legs. The legs that we just threw up, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are all considered legs. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to be using this last leg and inserting our hook right here. So draw up a loop in there. And then this 5th chain that we insert our hook into for where this leg went into, we're going to be reusing that chain again. So insert your hook, yarn over, and pull through. And then we're just going to continue down the row with 2 more back loop pull throughs. So we end up with 6 on our hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to yarn over and pull the row 6. And then again, we're going to chain, and we have just created our second marguerite stitch. 1, 2. And then we're just going to keep doing that down the row. So again, insert your hook into this eye, draw up a loop, insert your hook into this leg. So you see where this last insert we did into the back loop on the chain. We're just going to insert a hook through that. And then again, this back loop that we used previously. And then again, continuing down the last 2 chains of our foundation. Sometimes you might have to wiggle it a little bit, which if it is a little tough, you can use a darning needle to kind of wiggle a little bit of space in there. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to yarn over and then chain 1. Alright, I will continue down until I have finished the rest of my chains. Once you finish your last marguerite stitch, we're just going to yarn over and do a half double crochet into that last back loop. So now you have finished your row 1, which should look something like this. And now we're just going to chain 1 and turn our work. Once you're here, you're going to insert a single crochet into this half double crochet that you just did. So ignoring this first chain that you did as your turning chain, we're going to insert our hook here. And then we're going to insert our hook into this eye that we created. So if you're a little confused about where your eye, we're going to be using the eye that we made throughout the first row. It's going to look a little bit smaller than these legs. So there are these legs over here, and then these eyes over here. They look a little bit smaller just because they are a chain 1. So leg, eye, leg, eye, leg, eye. So we have already inserted a single crochet into our half double crochet from before, and then 1 into our eye. And then going down the rest of the chain, or the rest of the row, we're going to insert 2 single crochets into each eye. So each of these smaller little bits. So 1, 2. And then going down, 1, 2. And just continue that down. Our next insert for our eye will be in the smaller bit over here. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. So our last eye was over here. We're actually going to insert 1 more single crochet into this chain that we have for our leg. So if you turn your work, you can see our initial chains. This is our first chain that we actually did our back loop into. So we're just going to insert our hook and single crochet there. So now this is the wrong side. We're actually going to turn our work now, but this is what a finished marguerite row looks like. So now we're going to chain 2. And the reason why we chain after we turn is so we can again use these back loops, because we're going to be using this for the rest of the pattern. So we're going to insert a hook like in our foundation chain. We're going to yarn over after this back loop, and then the second back loop, I'm going to insert a hook and pull up a loop. And then in the next 3 stitches, we're just going to pull up a loop like you would normally. After that, we should have 6 loops in our hook, and then yarn over and pull through. And the rest of the pattern is essentially a repeat of the stitch and then the single crochet row back. Again, we're going to insert our hook into this eye, again using this leg, and then this single crochet that we did. So this would be like the third single crochet stitch we did. We're just going to insert our hook and reuse that stitch. And then insert our hook and pull up a loop through the next 2 stitches. So we have 3 on our hook, or sorry, we have 6 on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 6. So once you've reached the last marguerite stitch, so I'm just pulling through, you're going to chain 1 and then again insert a half double crochet into the last stitch where your leg was inserted. And then that is essentially the repeat. You're going to do that marguerite stitch, or the one that we just did, and then the single crochet row. So just to show the single crochet row one more time, I'm going to chain 1, insert a hook into the first stitch, single crochet there, and into our eye 1. And then every eye thereafter, we're just going to put in 2 single crochets. Remember, they're the smaller looking of the chains, not the legs, which look a little bit longer or wider, bigger. So 2 into there, 2 into there, 2 into there. And then this is the leg, and then we're just going to, you can see these 2 chains that we did when we started the third row. So we're just going to insert a hook into this top chain and single crochet in there. You're just going to repeat your marguerite row and your single crochet row again and again until you have your desired length. So when you're creating your initial chain, you're creating the bag and how it looks this way, and then you're going to repeat the rows until you reach your desired width, length, however you perceive the width and length. But once you do that, just create a second patch. You can create any color combo that you want. I just recommend creating, if you're inserting a new color for striping, I would just put in, I would add the color when you are doing your single crochet rows. I forgot to mention, but for this bag specifically, I made it 57 stitches long versus 48 stitches row. 48 rows. 57 stitches tall, 48 rows long. And that kind of got me enough to put, for those of you who have a MacBook, enough to put a 13-inch MacBook in here without actually causing it to droop too much. That's about 21 centimeters tall versus 28 or 29 centimeters long. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you use long when it's longer than your width, whether it's this way or that way, but you get the point. Once you finish both of your panels, you can start joining up the edges. I personally prefer to use a sewing thread with a invisible mattress stitch, so this is what my edges look like, but you can use whatever method you prefer. Here's a quick tutorial on how I do it. With your darning needle, I'm just going to be showing this in a contrasting color, but realistically it wouldn't matter too much because this color should be completely hidden. With the right sides of your project facing out, we're just going to attach this into the corner and then connect this into the second corner. For a quick note on terminology, I'm referring to this one as the first panel and this one as the second panel. The inner V's, so to speak, are the inside loops of this V. They are the ones facing each other on the inside of the bag. the first thing that you're going to do is go in from outside in through this first inner V. And then you can come back out from inside out through the second V of your first panel. Once you've done the first two, you're just going to move on to the second panel and go through this first V. Again, outside in. And then come back out from the inside through the second V on the second panel. The invisible mattress stitch is essentially a repeat of just these two motions. Once you finish the second panel, come back to your first one, and you see where we came out from this second stitch. We're just going to go straight back in. And then you can come back out through the second inner V. Same as the first side, you're going to come outside in from the stitch that you have already gone through. And then back out through the next stitch. You can tighten this every 3 rows or so, or every 3 or 4 stitches. But once you tighten it, it should be almost invisible to see. But that is essentially how you do the invisible mattress stitch. I will meet you guys back here once the edges have all been seamed up. Once you have finished seaming your edges, you should have something that looks like this, with some ends that may or may not be weaved in. But once you have finished, we are going to start seaming. We're going to start making the handle for the project. I like to join with a chain and then slip stitching into the corner. So I'm going to start with the edge over here, just because the color of my stripe for me defines where I want to put the handle, but you can make yours a little wider or narrower, whichever one that you prefer. I'm just going to insert my hook over here at the edge and take my chain, tighten that up, and take my chain, pull it through, yarn over, and pull it through. So from here, we're going to make a single crochet stitch across the edge over here. So we're going to put our first single crochet into the first stitch that we just pulled our yarn through. And then for the jasmine stitch, it is a pretty tall stitch, so we're just going to put 2 stitches per jasmine and then 1 per single crochet row. So there's 2 for a jasmine stitch and then 1 for a single crochet, and then another 2 for the jasmine. I am putting my stitch through any hole at the edge. You see one here, here, here. Yeah. So that was 1, 1, 2 single crochet, 1, 2 single crochet. My next 2 are into the jasmine. And now this is into the seam. And then we're just going to keep going. So I have about 3 rows of marguerite stitches included, except for the single crochet of the white I have here. So that's marguerite, single, marguerite, single, marguerite. So that's 5 rows in total. Once you have reached the end, you should have about 17 stitches in total for your base. Once you have reached your end, you're just going to chain 1 and then flip it over. Here we're actually going to do a decrease, so we create a edge. So you're just going to insert your hook, yarn over and pull through. You're going to insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through all 3. Then we're just going to single crochet until we reach the other end, and we're going to do the exact same decrease. So I've reached the last two, and I'm just going to insert yarn over, and then pull through both. And then we're just going to continue this for another 3 rows. Chain 1, turn your work over, and do another decrease. And then single crochet the rest of the row until you reach the last 2 stitches. So we're going to do another 2 more, and I will meet you guys at the end. After you completed your decreases, you should have something that looks like this. You can add more rows if you want it to be narrower, or stop earlier if you want to make it longer or wider. So from here on, it's just going to be a simple single crochet up and across until you reach your desired length. I'm making this a shoulder bag, so it's going to be pretty short, maybe a foot and a half long across for my handle. So again, this is a pretty straightforward strap. Just going to do a single crochet across the entire way through. Once you have reached your desired length, I will meet you back at the end so we can connect this into the other end of the bag. So I have reached the end of my straps, and I have about 64 rows here. This is just about 12 inches. Just for the strap, not including the increase and decrease sections. But once you have reached a strap length that you are happy with, we are going to start increasing, so we are matching the first side. You're going to do the same amount of rows of increases that you did as decreases. So in this case I did 4, so I'm just going to go back down. I'm going to go increase another 4 rows. So in order to do that, I'm just going to chain 1 and do a increase on the first stitch. So I'm going to go into the first stitch over here and insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through 2, and then I'm going to go and increase by doing another single crochet in that same first stitch. Then we're just going to single crochet across until we reach the last stitch. And put 2 single crochets into the last stitch over here. 1, 2. Now we're going to do that again for another 3 rows. So chain 1, turn, and put 2 single crochets into the first stitch over here. Single crochet across, and then put 2 single crochets into this last stitch. I will meet you guys back at the end of finishing our increase rows. So I now finished all the increases, and if you actually don't remember how many increases you added, you can just flip it around. You can flip the handle around and kind of line it up with your other side and just make sure that it reaches across. And mine is there. So once you finish that, we're actually going to cut the yarn and pull our yarn through. I actually reached just about the end of my ball, so I'm just going to bring this through and close it up. And now we're just going to sew in this onto our, we're actually going to sew this into the other side of our stitch, into the other side of our bag, sorry, and making sure that we line up with the same three-ish rows, or 5 in total on each side. So we have 2 in each marguerite, so we're going to start with this marguerite stitch over here. So I'm actually just going to cut this off. And then get my darning needle. And same with the edges, we're just going to use the invisible mattress stitch to pull this through. So I'm just going to join it on this side, on the edge over here. And then go outside in from the first side and then back out through the next stitch. Then we're just gonna pick a hole from this side and do the same thing. Just kind of line it up as best as you can. In, out through the next, and then match it up on the other side. And I will meet you guys back when the handle has been seamed. So I've just finished seaming up my ends on this side, and then we are just going to make another pass through just to really secure it. And leave this little loop. We're actually going to feed our darning needle through it just to make another secure knot. But we're also going to weave in all of these ends, and then you will have your finished bag. So I already put my laptop in it just to give it some shape, but it looks so good right now. Just remember that the handle, it will stretch a little when you put something in it, especially something heavy, but this is the final look. I think it looks so good and I am really happy with how it turns out. So let me know if you do end up making it. Bye!